Hello everyone, we're going to talk today about common myths of foster parents. The term foster in the Merriam Dictionary is described as a word used to describe a situation in which for a period of time a child lives with and is cared for by a person other than their parents. It is the foster parent's job to fill a void that birth parents can't. My definition of foster parent is someone who opens their heart and their home for children who, for whatever reason, are not getting the love and the care that they need by their birth parents. It is the foster parent's job to lead by example, to be a mentor, and to deal with difficult family dynamics. It's not an easy task to become a foster parent or the job itself. Becoming a foster parent is a serious decision and one that is surrounded by many misconceptions. Today we're going to look at 3 of those common misconceptions. The first one is that foster parents are only in it for the money. The second is that the birth parent and the foster parent do not have any contact. And the third is that the foster parent doesn't get attached to the children in their care. First we're going to look at the idea that foster parents are only in it for the money. Why else would they do it? That's a pretty bold statement for me to make on something I know very little about. The GCAC of Georgia.com describes the payments that a foster parent receives as more of a reimbursement system. They're reimbursed for room and board, the child's clothing, and other things that they may need. Each child gets a yearly clothing expense, medical expenses are paid for, and if the parent works outside the home, they do receive help with daycare. I myself know that it does take a lot to raise a child, and there are hidden expenses around every corner. So it's possible that a foster parent may end up spending more than they're ever reimbursed themselves. Let's look now at the things that a foster parent gives that money can't buy. Safety, stability, security, love, encouragement, moral standards, and 24/7 care. There's no way to put a price tag on those things. So for a person to become a foster parent, they really have to have a true desire to do it. They're not doing it just for the money. The second common misconception is that the foster parent and the birth parent never have any contact. All situations are different, but in most situations, the foster child does go back into the home of the birth parent. So in order to make that transition as smooth as possible, it is important to have an open line of communication between foster parent and birth parent. In an article by Andy Nesmith entitled Child Parent Visits in Foster Care, he speaks about a visiting guidebook tool. In the guidebook, it gives a list of best practices on the transition from foster care to the home of the birth parent. We're not going to look at all those best practices today. We're going to look at 2 that involve the foster parent. The first one is going to be communication. It's important to have an open line of communication between the foster parent and the birth parent. One example of why this is important is that if a child's been with a foster parent for a long period of time, they're getting ready to transition into the home of the birth parent, the birth parent in an overnight visit may have some questions about the child's sleep routine and different things like that. It's important for all children to have a routine and stability, but especially for a child that's moving from one home to the next. It's important to keep those things routine for them so the transition is as easy as possible. So for that reason, the foster parent is there to give the birth parent some instructions on what the child is used to. Another reason why it's good to have an open line of communication is once the child goes home to the birth family, the foster parents can be like a support system for the birth parents and be there for them during that difficult time. Another concept or another best practice is emotions, dealing with emotions. When a child is moved from the foster home to the birth parent's home, there's going to be a lot of emotions there. Feelings of being confused, unwanted, things like that. And it's important for the birth parents and the foster parents to be able to be mentally equipped to handle those emotions. So as you can see, it's not only possible for the lines of communication to be open, it's also essential for the lines of communication to be open between both sets of parents in order to for them to have a smooth transition. The last myth we're going to look at is that the foster parents don't get attached to the children in their care. Why else would they? It's just a job, right? In my personal opinion, it's important. In my personal opinion, it's impossible for you to be attending to a child's needs on a 24-hour basis and not create some bond with them. Let's say, for instance, that it is just a job. So what are the responsibilities of that job? In an article entitled "Empower Foster Parents Toward Caring Relationships" by James Swick, it emphasizes the importance of care as the core value of a decent relationship. These children are not going to be children forever. One day they're going to enter the world as employees, as parents themselves, and we all want these people to be constructive members of society. And a caring environment is where it all begins. So therefore, it's their responsibility as their so-called job to care for the children that they have in their home. The third misconception. It is also untrue to say that they don't get attached. In the article "Common Foster Parenting Myths, Children in Care," the author tells about her experiences. She states that to imply that foster parents can let kids go because they don't get attached is simply not the case. She talks a little about her experiences, and she says that some children they did cry over and others they didn't. Connections are made when you attend to a child's needs 24/7, and some bonds are stronger than others. But all foster parents have to deal with separation. It's just part of their role as being a foster parent. But it would be untrue to say that they don't get attached to them. They're open in their hearts as well as their homes for these children. In the last few minutes, we've discussed 3 myths that involve foster parents. The idea that they do it for the money, the idea that they never have any contact with the birth parent, and the idea that they don't get attached to the children in their care. Becoming a foster parent is a big decision, and it's one that's involved with many misconceptions. And I hope today we prove these to be false. The idea that they make it for the do it for the money when they make merely cents on the hour would be ridiculous. It is essential for the foster parent and the birth parent to have a relationship in order to create a smooth transition. And it's also the responsibility of the foster parent to care for these children and care about these children in order to provide the environment that they need. If you want to look at this as a job, then it's a pretty important job. It's probably one of the most important ones in the world. And it would be a job that somebody would have to have a true desire to make a difference in the lives of others, not just doing it for the money or something like that. They would have to have a true desire to make a difference in these child's lives. Thank you.